Recording has started. So, welcome to, I believe this is the 28th class in this Bhagavad Gita study series. We are in the sixth chapter. The sixth chapter is the primer on meditation. The chapter is titled Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, or another name for this is Atma Samyama Yoga, that is making the mind steady, samyama, even how to make the mind steady. And here, the word yoga, as I've told before, it just means a collection of topics under dhyana. That's what it means. It doesn't mean yoga. So, one of the definitions of yoga is yuj, yet yujyate iti yoga. That what unites is yoga. So, it just means it's a collection of topics on dhyana. So, we would like to acknowledge Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati for the traditional rendering of Vedanta as it was done for over 1,000 years, starting with Adi Shankaracharya. And we'll say a small prayer before we start. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Salutations to the lineage starting with Lord Sadashiva, with Adi Shankaracharya in the middle, and continuing up to our immediate teacher, Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati. So, that okay. So, last class, what we studied Bahiranga Sadhanani, which means general preparations one has to do every day, that a yogi has to follow every day to become adept at yoga or meditation. So, we saw 5 things: Vairagyam, dispassion; Samatvam, balance of mind or equanimity; self confidence; Prayatna, self effort; and discipline, uh, Dhammaha, so self control. Um, all these are the things that one has to follow to attain a steady mind. Then we started with the second part of the sixth chapter, which is Vishesha Sadhanani. These are specific disciplines observed before and also during meditation. So Bhagavan is going to talk about that now. So this is the topic. We covered 2 shlokas on that. So the topics are Desha, Kala, Asanam, the place, time of meditation, and preparation of the seat. So this is what will be covered in Shlokas 10 and 11, which we saw. If you remember, Yogi Junjita Satatam Atmanam Rahasistitaha Ekakiyata Chittatma Nirashira Parigraha. So it says the yogi has to engage constantly every day, living in solitude. That means not advertising, putting on social media, oh, I'm going to this meditation retreat, all that, and preferably alone. So these days everybody wants to meditate together, which is good because it motivates people. But in the ancient texts, it always says to get success, you want to be alone. Then restraining the mind and body without desires and greed. So we saw this, and then Bhagavan talks about the place and the seat. We saw how you have to stack up certain things, and we also saw the meditation posture. We'll again come to the meditation posture. Shuchau deshe pratishtapya sthiramasanam atmanah natyuchrutam nati nicham shailajina kushottaram. Establishing oneself in a clean place, taking up a firm posture, not strenuous, but comfortable, but very steady and firm. That is neither too high, so your bottom shouldn't be too high, not too low. If it's too low, your back will bend. And stacked with cloth, deerskin, and kushagrass. So nowadays, we don't need deerskin. There are so many other alternatives. There are nice zafu cushions, zafutans that we can sit on comfortably and meditate for extended periods of time. Okay, so and last class we saw all this. Now we will go to the 12th shloka. Now remember, In this chapter, Bhagavan has jumbled things. It's like put in a blender and just jumbled topics. So he will jump from here to here, back, all those things will happen. So from Desha, Kala, Asanam, first three he covered, then he jumps, he skips these two, and he jumps to Indriya Nigraha and Mano Nigraha. Sensory restraint, Indriya senses, Nigraha is control, restraint, sensory restraint. Manat Nigraha, mind restraint or mind mastery. That's covered in the 12th sloka. Tatraikagram mana kritva yata chittendriya kriyaha upaveshyasane yunchyat yogamatma vishuddhaye. Tatra, there. So having done all this preparation, seat, everything. So even in the Yoga Sutras, after asanas comes pranayama. Then tasmin sati swasha prashtashubayo gati vicheda pranayamaha. Swasha and prashwasha, so the inhalation, exhalation, making them equal. Where? After practicing asana. So tasmin, having established, tasmin sati, having established in asanas, Shwasha prashwashayo gati vicheda pranayama. So all these, you have to do these preparations. You can't jump straight. Oh, I'm just going to eat a heavy meal and start in meditation. No, that's not good. So he says, Tatra manaha ekagram kritva, making the mind one-pointed. Yata chitta indriya kriyaha. Yataha means controlling. Yati means one who has great control. Yata Chitta indriya kriyaha. Chitta is the mind, indriya is the senses, the activities of the senses and mind, which means don't look everywhere and try to calm the mind. Yata chitta indriya kriyaha. Then upavishyasane yunjyat. Upavishya asane means seated. Upavishya means being seated. Asane means in the posture. Yunjyat means let the yogi perform. Yunjan means strive, perform. So yunjyat means let the yogi perform. Yogam, perform what? Yoga. And for what purpose? Atma vishuddhaye, for the purification of the mind. Therefore, there, making the mind one-pointed and restraining the activities of the senses and the chitta, the mind, seated in an asana, let the yogi perform yoga for the purification of the self. Here, Atma refers to the self. Remember, I told you Atma just means the self. It can mean different things in different contexts. Atma can be the consciousness. Here, it means the mind and the body. Purification of the mind and the body. Okay. Now, we're seeing different terms used for the mind. Bhagavan is just using different terms. So in yoga and in Vedanta also, the mind is divided into 4 parts. I've said this before, but I'm reiterating. Manas, it refers to memory, feelings. It's distributed throughout the body, not just in the brain. Buddhi, this is like the prefrontal cortex, intellect. It's the one which discriminates. Then there is this mysterious entity called ahankara, ego. This gives a notion of I as this mind-body complex. This gives a notion of I. Ego doesn't mean proud person. Ego just means the one that gives the notion of I. Otherwise, you can't exist. It's important. So ego, and then there is the chitta. Okay, so chitta is the link to the consciousness. It is the, like we saw, the movie theater of the mind. It acts as though it is the chit. Chit iva bhavayati chittam. It seems to manifest like the original consciousness. The reason we talked about a term called the reflected consciousness, right? The consciousness is one. It's all pervading. But in each individual, there is a certain light that's reflecting. So um, the example I can give is in this lighthouse. So there's a big light in the center, and there are these three holes, right, through which light can go on all sides. So it's like that. There's one consciousness, but it shoots light in different directions. And it can also project, if you have like a shape, it can also project that far. Similarly, you can just think of as one light, projector light in the middle, and there are three movie theaters, let's say, on like a triangle. One here, another movie theater here, another here. So the same light can project into each of the movie theaters. And this light that is projected on the screen, it is called Chit Abhasa, the reflected consciousness. It is the light in the movie theater. It is coming from the original consciousness. Original consciousness is one, but it seems to illuminate each body separately, mind, body. Okay? So, Chit iva bhavayati system, chittam, it seems to manifest like the original consciousness. Now, Bhagavan is again jumping from Indriya Nigraha to Mano Nigraha to Sharira Sthiti, the body posture and its stability. This is a very important shloka. P.K.S. Iyengar would always quote it. Samam kaya shiro gripam dharayan achalam stiraha samprekshya nasikakram swam dishashchanavalokayan. Posture for yoga. I'll first read out and we'll go word by word meaning. Keeping the body, neck, and head erect in line, like B.K. Sangar would call it the plumb line. He would always say plumb line. This is what he refers to as the plumb line. And holding still and steady, gazing at the tip of the nose without looking around. So gazing means Shankara's commentary with the eyes closed, internal grace. And he's saying don't just keep revolving your eyeballs all around, just and don't think about anything. Okay. Samam means even or straight. Kaya shiraha ugrivam. So I'll change the pointer. Let's see. Okay, if this is too distracting for you, this laser pointer, let me know. Okay. Kaya means body. Shiras means head. Ugrivam means neck. So body, neck, head, all this straight line. And dharayan means holding. Achalam means unmoving. So Venkatachalam. So Venkata Achalam, it's a mountain. So one which doesn't move, it's a mountain. Achalam, stiraha and steady. Dharayan, the word dharti has the same root. So earth is called dharti because it holds the weight of all the sentient and insentient things. So dharayan means holding still, holding this what? Holding the body, neck and head. How? Still and steady. Achalam, not moving, still. Stiraha, steady. Samprekshya means gazing. Nasikagram, nasika nose, agram, end, the tip of the nose, gazing at the tip of the nose. Dishascha anavalokayan. Disha is directions. Anavalokayan, not um, looking around. Disha anavalokayan means looking around. Now the gaze is not very important because in the previous chapter, Bhagavan also uses a different drishti. So for those who practice asana practice, there's something called a drishti, where you look to keep the mind steady. So this is not too important. The one most important thing is you keep the mind in one spot. So Sparshan kritva bahirbahyan chakshushchaivantare bruvo. In the last chapter, we saw sparshan kritva bahirbhagyan chakshuhu chakshushchaiva antare bruvo, in the middle. So your gaze, the internal gaze, the focus initially should be on the middle of the eyebrows. Now he says sampreksha nasikagram, at the top corner of the nose. So what he means is that the gaze is not important, but you need a one point. Okay. Now meditation posture. So we covered this briefly. I will tell that again. It's so important. Um, So this shloka that we saw, samam ka shirogrivam dharayan nachalam stiraha sampreksha nasikagram swam dishascha anavaloken. Um, and then previously, shuchau deshe pratishtapya stiramasanamatmanah na ati uchrutam, not too high, na ati nicham, niche low, not too high, not too low, and stacked with 3 layers. So this is the posture. You see this? Your bottom has to be raised, not too high, but not too low. It has to be raised comfortably, because if you don't raise it, what will happen is that you will see, let me, so you see the body slouches. So this is not advice. Sitting on a flat area is not advice, because eventually the spine will become curved. So for the spine to maintain this position, you need to raise the bottom. Okay, so that is about the um, meditation posture. Then um, then the spine erectness is a very important thing. In fact, in yoga also, um, I've told the story. Do you guys remember the story of Vajra? How Indra gets Vajra? Yes, no? Should I tell it? Anybody? Yep.
I wouldn't mind hearing it again. Yes, please.
Okay. So in all the yogic practices, yoga, meditation, asana meditation, you have to hold the spine straight, and there's a certain reason, right? So it channels the energy, it prevents drowsiness, all that. Now the story was that there was a great rishi, okay, the Dichi, and this rishi, for a long time, he was meditating in Vajrasana. So Vajrasana is this posture. So, and Vajrasana very naturally keeps the spine erect when you sit like that. And because of that, he got enormous tapobalam from tapas powers, and his spine became so strong. Okay, this is one story. Now, once Indra had a big fight with Vrutra, a asura, a demon, and this demon was unvanquishable. He was so strong. Whatever Indra, he throws a knife, mace, arrows at him, he couldn't kill him. Then somebody tells him that there is this rishi called Dadichi. Go pray to him and request for his spine. I mean, request for his spine means he has to give up his body. So Indra goes and prays to him, and out of compassion for the devas, Dadichi says, I will give up my body voluntarily. So rishis, they can give up their life anytime voluntarily. Through their Sushumna Nadi, they can just release their Sukshma Sharir. So their prana will go out of the Sushumna the Nadi. And in fact, Krishna is going to talk about this Murtyan Adaya. So focusing on the Murtans, this point, you can release your life. 8th chapter, he's going to talk about it. But anyway, and he gave up his spine, and Vishwakarma, the divine architect, crafts a weapon called Vajra. Vajra also means diamond, strong weapon. So It is there. So there is a sequence of asanas. This is called Lagu Vajrasana. So there's, and then there's Supta Vajrasana, all these poses. So you see here Indra holding it's like looks like a spine. Usually it's showed with like a zigzag thing, but it's the spine. So this is how he kills Vritra. Now, it is also said that in where the Buddha gained enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, there is a, a big stone slab called Vajrasana. And it is believed that the Buddha, when he attained enlightenment, a lot of people show Buddha as sitting cross-legged, right? In Padmasana, no. Apparently, he was in Vajrasana. So that is a small story about Vajrasana. Okay. Now, next, prana samyam, relaxed breathing. We already covered it in the 27th shloka of the previous chapter. We just saw that now. Sparshan kritva bahir bahyan chakshushchaivantare pruvo prana panau samau kritva nasabhyantara charinau. Shutting out the external sense objects, placing the gaze in the middle of the eyebrows, regulating the inhalation and exhalation of the moving air moving inside the nostrils. Then Bhagavan again comes to mind mastery, Mano Nigraha in Shlokas 14 and 15. And later, Buddhi Nishchaha, later he comes much later in 25th Shloka. Conviction, what is Mano Nigraha? Is making the mind steady, not having too many thoughts. What is Buddhi Nishchayaha? It means conviction regarding the necessity and the utility of meditation, right? If you don't have this dridam, the conviction, you would not go sit for meditation. It is that conviction. How do you develop that? Is what he will cover next. But now we'll look at Mano Nigraha. Prashantatma vigatabhi brahmacharya pratestitaha manas samyamya machittaha yukta asita matparaha. Prashantatma, serene in the self. Here the self refers to mind. Serene in the mind. Vigata bhi bhaya, it comes from same fear. Vigata means free of fear, fearless. Brahmacharya pratestitaha, vratam, vow, stitaha, firm. Firm in what? Firm in the vow of brahmacharya. We'll come to brahmacharya. It's a word, it needs explanation. We'll come to that. Manaha samyamya, with the mind, control, making it balanced. Samyama is balanced. Here it has the connotation of well controlled. Machittaha means thinking of me. This also requires a lot of explanation. Thinking of me, what? With Bhagavan, with Vishnu, with all. Vishnu is a Alankara Priya. Shiva, if you see Shiva and Vishnu, they're both one and the same. But Shiva is always looked at as taking bath very physically clean, but he wears loincloth, tiger skin. Whereas Vishnu is beautifully bedecked with ornaments, um, kaustubo, like all the kaustubo peat, all the yellow dhoti, very beautiful. Vishnu. So if you start visualizing Vishnu, you'll start thinking, oh, his kundalam, his earrings, his jewels, oh, beautiful jewels. So our mind can get wandered, right? So thinking of me as the supreme, Bhagavan is going to later explain what it means. So serene in the self and fearless, firm in the vow of brahmacharya with the mind controlled, manasamyamya machittaha, yukta, yoked. Yukta means well established, yoked. Asita matparaha, sitting, they should sit in yoga. mat paraha, not thinking of anything. Now, brahmacharya. Let's first. So before that, I wanted to tell one more thing. There is a lot of these shlokas are very similar. In fact, when we did second chapter, I don't know if you guys remember or not. I said there is lot of shlokas which are introduction to the sixth chapter on certain topics of the sixth chapter. So here, yukta asita matparaha, same thing comes in the second chapter. Tani sarpani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. He talks about the sthita prajna, tasya prajna pratishtita. The wisdom of one is well established, for whom tani sarpani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. They're just sitting firm, yoked in yoga. Vashehi yasya indriyani, whose senses are under control. Tasya prajna pratishtita. That person's wisdom is well established. So this is I said second chapter is like introduction. So now everything is explained more in this chapter. Okay. Now, brahmacharya. Brahma acharati means walking in the path. Of Brahman. The word Brahman means something which is big and vast. Okay. So Brahma acharati, walking in the path of something which is big and vast. That is the meaning. So brahmacharya means observances. And one of the things is sexual continence, not being loose in sexual thoughts and acts. So very often the word brahmacharya is meant as celibacy. So brahmacharis are ones who are celibate for a certain portion of their lives. But in the broader context, brahmacharya means being restrained in certain things, including uh, sexual thoughts and activities. And how do we know that? Several examples are given in the Mahabharata. One example is that of Arjuna, and Arjuna uh, is fighting Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthama. Drauni, he's called. And in that, he Arjuna first Ashwatthama shoots a powerful astra called Brahmashiras. There's a big story with that. I don't know if I should go into the story now or later. So Ashwatthama shoots Brahmashiras. Ashwatthama is a crazy guy. He's a reckless, unethical person. He just shoots it. And then to counter it, Arjuna shoots Brahmastra. Why is it called Brahma Astra? Because it is the greatest of all astras. And Brahmashiras, its head is so strong. They're both almost equal. So if they two collide, it's like a nuclear bomb. The entire world will get annihilated. Two strong heads. One cannot vanquish the other. Then Vyasacharya comes and stops. He just says, stop Astra. So they're in midair. They're both waiting. And at that time, Vyasacharya commands, Arjuna, take Brahmastra, command it back. Ashwatthama, take Brahmashiras, command it back. Then Ashwatthama says, I did not learn how to command it back. And it is said that only a person who is as Indriya Nigraha and Brahmacharya can control these astras. That is Brahmacharya. So Arjuna Arjuna, the word Arjuna means the one with the fair one. He's supposed to be very fair, with very clear skin, transparent, like very clear, no blemishes, very handsome person. And wherever he went, I mean, he got married. He had, like Krishna, he had many wives, not as many. Krishna had 16,008, but Arjuna had many wives. This person as a celibate, you can't think of, but he was controlled in his senses and his sexual urges. So that person is called a brahmacharya. Okay, so and how Ashwatthama got this weapon Brahmashiras is a whole other story, and maybe later today or some other time I can tell that. Otherwise, we'll have a Mahabharata class here. Okay, now comes Alambana. Okay, now Bhagavan here says with a mind controlled, manas samyamya. So how do you control? And why is he saying thinking of me as the supreme? Okay. Now, so this is where here first Bhagavan says thinking of me as the supreme. So what he is essentially saying is use me as an anchor to steady the mind. Now I have to come to the topic of alambana. Alambana means anchor. Now in the Yoga Sutras, um, Patanjali talks about various kinds of anchors for the mind. And one of the anchors, let's see, so he talks about swapna nidra jnanalambanam va. The thoughts that come in your dreams, use that as an anchor to steady the mind. And he, or prachartana vidaranapyam va pranasya, so your exhalation and inhalation, that can be an anchor. Or vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasah sthiti nibandhini. Vishayavati, so when you meditate, some people, they smell roses. Some people smell, taste things in their tongue. All those are fine because it makes things pleasant and steadies your mind. Some people taste rasagullas or sweets, ice cream, everything, and the mind becomes steady. And that's also a valid anchor. But here, Bhagavan is talking about thinking of me as the supreme. Okay, so we'll come to that in the shloka. How? Because it's kind of misleading when you start thinking about Bhagavan. Oh, Bhagavan has all these jewels, so it can lead your mind astray. So what is he talking about? Let's see here. Benefit of yoga. This is the topic of this shloka. So 15th shloka. Yunjan epam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasaha shantim nirvana paramam matsamstamadhigacchati. So here again, another use of the word atmanam. Yunjan eva sada, always. Atmanam, here atma refers to mind. Thus engaging the self, mind, in yoga constantly, the yogi with the mind always controlled attains the highest state of peace and liberation by residing in me. So you have to see a lot of things now. Previously, he said, he used the word thinking of me. Now he used the word absorbed in me. Okay, so we'll see what that is. So we'll look at the word by word meaning. Sada yunjan. So yunjan evam sada. It's poetry, right? So the words are just jumbled, and it's perfect in Sanskrit, just like in German. Sada yunjan means always striving. Yunjan means striving. Always striving. Atmanam niyata Atmanam niyata means the niyata manasaha means keeping fixed. Keeping what fixed? Atmanam, the mind. It's not the atma, it is the mind. Keeping the mind fixed, the yogi, thus engaging the mind in yoga constantly. The yogi with the mind always controlled. Shantim nirvana paramam attains the highest state of peace. Shanti, peace. Nirvana paramam, highest state of peace. Nirvanam, liberation. Matsamstam adhigacchati. So in the previous shloka, he's talking about dhyana. And now, mat samstam adhigacchati. He attains the state by residing in me. Or mat samstam means my place, literally. So you're becoming one with Bhagavan. And how is that possible? So for that, we have it's a very tricky topic. So we need a little explanation here. So first thing he's saying, mat paraha, thinking of me as the supreme. And then he says, mat samstam, becoming absorbed in me. So what is that me he is referring to? Okay, that's where this comes. Ishvara can be an object of meditation. In fact, in Yoga Sutras, it says, Samadhi Siddhi Ishvara Pranidhanat. By totally surrendering, you get Siddhi, Samadhis. Ishvara Pranidhanatva. So, Samadhi can also be gained by total surrender to Ishvara. What type of Ishvara is Bhagavan talking about here? Object of meditation, it's based on the level of the Vedanta student. First, the Manda Bhaktaha, the beginner student, Manda means dull, but here you can say beginner, is Ekarupa Dhyanam. Ekarupa means your favorite Ishta Devata, Shiva, Vishnu, Shakti, whatever. Um, and for, so Sanatana Dharma is broad, so people who want to use other deities, Buddha, Jesus Christ, that's fine too. That is Ekarupa Dhyanam. Then Anekarupa Dhyanam, this we'll see in the 10th and the 11th chapters, which means the cosmic form. Imagining the cosmos, this is for the Madhyama Bhakta. The entire cosmos is God, or the intermediate student. And then Arupa Dhyanam, without form, for the Uttama Bhakta, advanced student. And what is this thing? This is the Brahman. Brahman is the vast consciousness that pervades the entire universe. Now, if you start thinking, so already to think of something which doesn't have form is so difficult. If you think of a formless thing pervading the entire universe, is it even possible? It just makes no sense, right? But this is the trick here. That same thing that pervades the entire universe is nothing but the Atma. It is like space. Remember, we talked about it. In the space, in the context of the home or within the earth, it's called inner space. In the context of the entire universe, it's called outer space. Space is one. It's just we put some divisions. So focus on the Atma. Again, Atma has no form. How can you focus on thoughts on the Atma? That Atma, when you look at the mind, you are thinking, okay, there is something that is witnessing the thoughts on the mind. I am not the mind. This witness is called the Atma. Those kind of thoughts. It is called Nididhyasanam, which we are going to see next. I will come to that later. So, okay, I'll come to Nididhyasanam a little later. And in yoga, it is said that not all kinds of minds are suitable for yoga, meditation. Yoga, literally, the word means meditation. So, yoga classifies minds into 5 categories. So, not 4 parts of the mind that we studied. Now, all these 4 parts can fall into these 5 categories. Shipta, Moda, Vikshipta, Ekagra, Niruddha. Shipta, naturally restless mind that is incapable of thinking of subtle principles, not fit for yoga. It needs more work. Mudaha, stupefied mind which is infatuated with sense objects, not fit for yoga. Vikshiptaha, this is where we are. Distracted mind, which can be concentrated sometimes and restless at other times. Most spiritual seekers fall in this category, suitable for yoga. Ekagra, one-pointed mind, ideal for yoga. Then the 5th state, Niruddha, where the fluctuations of the mind are arrested. This mind is the end goal of yoga. Okay, clear? Okay, now, okay, look at what Bhagavan is doing. We are now discussing the specific disciplines, Vishesha Sadhanani. Now, Bhagavan is jumping back to the first topic, Bahiranga Sadhanani, the general principles a yogi has to follow every day. And he's going to talk about discipline especially with respect self-control with respect to food. Okay. Natyashnatastu yogosti na chaikantamanashnataha na chati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. Yoga is not possible for one who eats too much, and verily not possible for one who eats too little, nor for one who sleeps too much, and not indeed for one who remains awake too much. Na ati anashnastu yogo asti. Yogaha na asti. One does not get yoga who ati anashnataha, one who eats too much. Ati means excessive. Anashna ati ashnaha, ashnatu yoga asti, one who eats ashnam, eating, one who eats too much. Then nacha ekantam anashnataha. Ekanta means certainly, verily, like he's singling out. Definitely not for one who doesn't eat at all. Anashnataha, one who doesn't eat or who eats too little. Nacha, and certainly not for ati swapna shilaha. Ati means excessive. Swapna, sleep, I mean dream or sleep. Swapna shilaha means one who has a tendency, one who's disposed to excessive sleep. Jagrato naivacha Arjuna, one who remains awake too much, not for that person either. This, in fact, is one of the most important topics in yoga, is what you eat. If you want the body to be flexible and the mind to be steady, most important thing is diet. Your fire, the Jatara Agni, should be on all the time. Patabi Joyce would say this. You, for a yogi, you should be able to engage the Mula Bandhava at all times other than sleeping, eating, and using the restroom. Other than all these times, you should be able to engage Mula Bandha. And if your stomach is heavy, you can't engage Mula Bandha. So here are a few articles. So in the Sadhguru, he quotes this from, this is a Sanskrit, it's in the Ayurveda scriptures. It says, an empty stomach has only one problem, right? It's just hunger. A full stomach has 100 problems. So many diseases can come from a full stomach. Ancient wisdom from ancient texts on diet and yoga. Then yeah, it is said in the yoga scriptures, a yogi means a meditator eats one meal a day. A bhogi means one who is given to pleasures, eats 2 meals a day. A rogi in Ayurveda means one who has a disease. A patient eats 3 meals a day. Or if you eat 3 meals a day, you become a rogi, is what it says. And then the fourth category, Sudrohi, a traitor, eats 4 meals a day. So we're probably in the third or the fourth categories. But it's just to show. It's not, we shouldn't take it literally. If we are doing more physical activities, we need food. But a lot of it comes from a sense of lack. These days, people eat because there's a sense of lack in them. So the Buddha gives this example. He calls this Krishna. It's like the thirst, craving. So he uses such a powerful example of these lepers. They have these leprosy sores, and it's itching and so painful. The only way they can relieve this itch is by burning it over fire. To mask that itch, they do something even more painful. So eating excessively is like that. It's a very powerful example Buddha gives. Excessive eating is exactly like that. Your body doesn't need it, but it is a sense of unfulfillment that we are trying to fulfill by excessive eating. Such a important concept. Food. And let us see this video. Okay, so that is the topic of food. Um, and then uh, there's one more story which is an important thing. The most compelling link between yoga and diet. I mean, in general, if you even in the 17th chapter, Bhagavan is going to talk about sattvic foods, rajasic foods, tamasic foods. So generally, people ask this question: if I want to be on a yoga path, should I definitely stop eating meat? So it doesn't say, okay, you're doing yoga, you have to stop eating meat. It just says meat is considered a tamasic food. It's not good for the mind. That's what it says. But here, Bhishmacharya goes a step more and he talks about a vegetarian diet and moderation in diet. So let's see what Bhishmacharya says. So he is shown here on a bed of arrows, right? He is Arjuna has shot him and he is down. They're all feeling so guilty. Bhishmacharya is almost exhausted and he says his head is hanging like this, and he's, because of arrows all over his body, his body is not on the ground. He's so uncomfortable with his head so straining. So give me a pillow to rest the head on. So everybody goes to get some cushions. Bhishmacharya says, no, 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 give me a pillow befitting a warrior. Only Arjuna can do that. So Arjuna puts 3 arrows to rest his head. Bhishmacharya's blood is all gone from his body because he has um, this boon that he can icham mrityu, is, it means um, death whenever he wants. Icha, when want, mrityu, death. He can give up his life whenever he wants. So he wants the sun to go into the Uttarayanam, northern hemisphere. It's an auspicious time. That's when he wants to give out his life. There were a few days left. In that time, um, Krishna tells Yudhishthira, Bhishma is the wisest person. Please go learn from him everything that you need to learn. And so Yudhishthira goes and requests Bhishma. Bhishma says, I would love to tell, but I'm drained of any energy. Then Krishna blesses him. You will have the energy to tell this entire thing to Yudhishthira. So he tells about governing kingdoms, everything. And at one point, he comes to diet. And in that thing, so look at what he says. Um, First, he talks about fasting and eating one or at most 2 meals a day. Okay, so Yudhishthira asks Bhishma. This is how the topic starts. How he's talking about yajnas. We saw yajnas, right? Ritual worship with oblations to the fire, followed by large donation of food and essentials to the poor and the needy. So Yudhishthira asks Bhishma, how can one who's poor and who cannot perform a yajna, a ritual worship, reap the benefits of a yajna if somebody is poor? Bhishma tells, that this is achieved through fasting and eating less. This is called upavasam in Sanskrit. Bhishma says this gives the same benefit as a yajna. If a person eats one meal a day for a year, then he or she reaps the benefit of the greatest yajna. If this is not possible, one should eat one meal a day on alternate days. He goes on like this. Even if this is not possible, eating one meal a day every 15 days and two meals on the other days will give significant benefits. If one just eats two meals a day for 6 years, one gets a siddhi, superpower of some kind. So it's in the Anushasana Parva of the Mahabharata. And then he goes on to the topic of vegetarianism. This is where maybe I should make it a little bigger. One of the areas where very clearly Bhishmacharya says, all texts talk about, including the Bhagavad Gita, refer to meat as a tamasic food, food that induces dullness and therefore not suitable for people who are on the path of spiritual practice. Others can eat, no problem. But what about others who are on a spiritual path, those who are warriors or those whose work involves a lot of physical labor? Don't they need to eat meat to perform these activities? Yudhishthira asks. This question comes in the minds of most people, right? So this is, Yudhishthira asks, isn't meat required for a warrior's valor? That's what he asks. Then Bhishma tells Yudhishthira, look, Bhishma, people consider me as the greatest warrior on the earth. I had given up eating meat a long time back. And he explains why it is not desirable to eat meat, not just for the yogi on a spiritual path, but for everyone else also. He says, this is what he says. He acknowledged the fact that people have a clinging for meat. Well dressed, cooked with salt or without salt, meat, in whatever form one may take, gradually attracts the mind and enslaves it. How will those foolish men that subsist upon meat succeed in attaining finer states of the mind? Bhishmacharya states. By committing a slaughter, one becomes guilty of it. By inciting others to do it, one becomes guilty. By mentally committing an act of slaughter, one becomes guilty. By eating meat, one feels the desire for the meat increasing. A taste or predilection for meat is thus created. Hence, the best course is total abstinence from meat. And he also acknowledged nothing on earth that is superior to flesh in point of taste. There's nothing that's more beneficial than flesh to persons that are lean or weak or afflicted with disease or addicted to sexual congress or exhausted with travel. Flesh speedily increases strength. It produces great development. But, oh, delighter of the Kurus, Kurunandana, he calls Yudhishthira, the merits are great that attach men, that abstain from it. Listen to me as I discourse to thee on it. That man who wished to increase his own flesh by the flesh of another living being is such that there is none meaner and cruel than that person. In this world, there is nothing that is dearer to a creature than its life. Hence, instead of taking this valuable possession, one should show compassion to the lives of others as one does to one's own life. Thus spake Bhishma, the one who took the terrible vow of celibacy. I hope that was useful. So that is the link. Okay. Now we will move. Okay, it's 24. Last shloka and we'll stop. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu yuktasvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. When does yoga become the destroyer of sorrows? Yogo bhavati dukkha ha hanishyati. It just destroys dukkha. Okay. For whom? Yukta means restrained. Ahara in food and vihara in recreation. Yukta, restrained. Cheshta, cheshtasya karmasu. So cheshta means efforts. So it means exertion. So karmasu cheshta means exertion in actions. Yukta swapna avabodhasya. In sleep, swapna literally means dream, but here you can take it as sleep. And avabodhasya in wakefulness. And for this person, for one who's restrained like that, yogo bhavati dukkha. Yoga becomes the destroyer of dukkha, sorrow or misery. So he says that. And this word vihara literally means recreation. So this also comes in the 11th chapter. 11th chapter. Echa vahasa hasatam asatkrutosi vihara shayyasana bhojaneshu. So Arjuna begs for forgiveness to Krishna. He says, when we are playing, having recreation, I thought you are my friend. So I said, hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey Saketi, hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey my friend. And then he begs for forgiveness. So the vihara is used in that context later. So I'm just linking different things. So you get a big picture of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, now, so far we've seen there are three qualities which stand out. So if somebody is to be called a yogi, what are the three qualities you look for? They have a mind that can be drawn inward into meditation. Not the social media people who put their leg behind the head. No. So shamaha is calmness. Damaha means sense restraint, has the ability to control the senses, not by force, but with ease. Then it's not given to excess food, or even austerity. Tapyante ye tapojana. So later in the 16th chapter, Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga, he says, these people who perform these terrible austerities, not only do they torture themselves, but they torture me who lives in them. So even that is not proper. So we've covered Bahiranga Sadhanani, Visheshana Sadhanani. Now we come to the chapter Dhyana Swarupam, nature of meditation, which we'll take up in the next class. And I'll stop the recording to do the chanting.